All right, welcome back to part 2, everyone. Here we are. We're continuing on from part 1. This is the hills all done. I think they're looking quite nice. There's a reference photograph, and let's move on and come down and fill this area in. Let's keep it nice and simple, okay? I'm going to just take a damp brush. All right, I'm going to take some burnt sienna, and look, you could give your palette a clean in between, I suppose, but I don't need to. I think it's fine. It's fine. Burnt sienna, Naples yellow, bit of burnt umber. Let's try this out. Okay, I'm happy enough with that. Let's pop that in. You can see how wet this is. Look, it's very wet, very thin mix. Again, it's just an underlayer, an undercoat. Let's just call it an undercoat. Let's not get too technical, you know. A lot of artists out there, excellent artists, but they get too technical, I find, with a lot of stuff. It just gets very technical, and especially for beginners, it gets very confusing. All these fancy terms. I'm just going to call this the undercoat, or you could call it the underpainting. I'm going to fill all of this in with just some burnt sienna and burnt umber, only for the sole purpose of covering the white canvas. That's all, just to get the canvas covered. That's all you need to do. I'm going to take some Naples yellow and some burnt sienna, and I'm going to just fill this area here. You see that bright area? This kind of side of the roadway. Fill that in with that colour. Let it disappear off into the distance, like that. Okay. So you can see now how simple this is. It's just coming together. It's just nice and simple. Nothing too fancy or complicated in all of this. More Naples yellow. I'm going to pop that in over here, and I'm using just the paint on its own then for this section, okay? Just make it nice and simple. Nice thick paint. Then we can go on to our, well, we could use a fan brush, but I don't know, I think this is not a bad brush to use. Let's take some burnt sienna, some magenta, and some burnt umber. Let's start dabbing. In fact, you know what? Let's go darker. Let's take some black with some magenta and some burnt sienna. A nice rich dark mix. The magenta will warm this up and give it that nice pinky warm undertone. Let's just go along and dab, 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 dab. Look, just with the tip of your large brush. It doesn't matter whether the hairs are all opened up. It's only just to create some texture. That's all. That's all I want to do right now, is create a bit of texture in all of this. As it comes forward, then I'm going to just start sort of flicking it upwards. Now I'll take some more burnt umber. And look, I'm just going to go to a fan brush as well in a moment, just to create a bit more texture in all of this. So you can see I'm letting some of that lighter colour underneath show through. That's all I'm doing. Already, we have a nice texture going on there, don't we? Let's go back into some burnt umber. We'll come over here and we'll kind of just sweep across the landscape very gently, just here and there, creating a kind of a very soft feeling of darks and lights. And I'm also going to just maybe soften that dark hill down into that ground as well. I want to make it all nice and soft in the distance, you see what I mean? So it kind of has an air of mystery about it. Now let's take some burnt umber and a bit of black, and we can just kind of suggest little dark spots here and there. You see what I mean? I'm just going very kind of loosely now across the landscape with this. Very loosely, just creating the impression of texture. That's all. Everything I'm doing here is just very loose to create some texture. There we go. That's nice. Now that's not bad, is it? Let's move on to our fan brush. Let's get a nice fan brush. I'm just going to dampen that just to soften it down a little bit. Take some black, burnt sienna, a little bit of thinners. You want this a little bit on the thin side in order for this to kind of stick. You see what I mean? So let's just go along now and again make that very rough looking. How about some magenta in there? And you see, I'm just kind of swishing the brush around just to make it very rough texture in all of this. Burnt umber. Flick it upwards, flick it downwards, create some grass, you know, all of that kind of thing. Let's just get it nice and dark. Let's do the same over on the other side. Bit of burnt umber, bit of black. Let's just go along. And it's amazing how easy it is to create lots of texture with the fan brush. It's just fantastic, isn't it? It really is. It's a lovely little brush to use. It does so much in so little time, doesn't it? The fan brush. Now I'm going to go into some Naples yellow, and I'm going to come in around here with some Naples yellow, and I'm going to just kind of create that little bit of a ridge just along there with some Naples yellow. I'll take some Naples yellow up on Sienna. So you can see the way I'm just sort of mixing it all up, adding a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Then I'm going to get some burnt umber with black, and I'm going to create a little dark spot just behind that. Just dabbing it along like that, okay? I'm using pretty much 3 colours: black, burnt umber, sienna, and then Naples yellow as well separately, but just sort of those 3 colours in varying quantities, different kind of mixes. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go over to the other side. Let's do a bit of work on the other side, come on. Let's just start here and just start kind of flicking it up, and then as it goes off, just leave it disappear off into the distance. Then take a bit of black, perhaps. Okay, quite nice. Coming along slowly, bit by bit. We're getting there slowly, bit by bit. Let's just take our time with all of this. Now, Naples yellow. Let's just pop some Naples yellow in here. I'm turning it downwards, look, to create the impression of this ridge kind of going down into the valley. All right, so I have a slight angle on my brush. And just soften that off into the distance there. Just keeping it all super loose. Okay, just super loose. That's all I'm doing. Get a bit of light across here. Like so. Almost blending it together. I'm going to take some Naples yellow with a little white, maybe a touch of cadmium yellow, just to add a little bit more brightness into this hair. First time using cadmium yellow. I'll do the same over here, just to create a little bit of a ridge up on the top of this side. Just give it a little bit of light. And turn it down and kind of mix it down into the darker section. That gives us a nice little ridge there, doesn't it? Now, a little touch of burnt umber, just for the bottom. Make it nice and dark. And a little bit here. It's, you know, a lot of this is about how you direct your brush. All right? It all comes down to the direction that you bring your brush in to create that effect. That's what a lot of this is, really. Now I'm going to put a nice little set of fences along here. Let's just get some Naples yellow, maybe in a bit of white, and create just a couple of small fence posts along there. Just a few. I mean, in the photograph there's a lot of them. Look, we could just go boom, 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 all the way across. Just a little nice impression. Just a couple of little marks with your brush is all you need. just a few. And then I'll take a little touch of black and add a tiny touch of black to some of them. Just give an impression of a dark side to some of these. It just makes it a bit more believable, doesn't it? You know, I think they need a little bit of a dark side. Just very subtle. Very, very subtle. And then just on the tips of them, I'm going to put just a tiny, tiny dab of white, just to highlight the tips. And that is all we need to do, really. Now let's just sit them down in the ground. Let's just take a bit of burnt umber and soften them through into that colour underneath. Just very gently. Already, you know, I think this is looking quite nice. We will move on to our footpath, and I'm going to take a small flat brush. I'm going to make a nice grey, a warm grey. Let's take some lamp black, some white, little magenta. Let's take a look at this. That's not bad. I'm going to go right off into the distance and create a little suggestion of a path, and then just wiggle it as you come down. Take a bit some magenta, some burnt sienna, gives you a much warmer grey. Let that soften down, and now let's just fill this in with this lovely colour. And I'll go to a larger brush. So I'll dampen my brush. Again, a little bit of black, a little bit of magenta, a little touch of burnt sienna, a little touch of white. And if it's too thick, just add a little thinners. Now, I'm going to start again. Let's get plenty of paint on this. Black, bit of sienna, bit of magenta. I like to start with a nice soft grey and then darken it if we need. I think it's just a much safer option rather than going right in there with a very, very, very dark colour. I prefer to just take my time. I don't want to go too dark, if you understand what I mean. Because if you have a very dark colour, it becomes difficult to lighten the colour. Especially with oil paints. So I like to kind of start off with a nice sort of middle ground sort of a colour, medium colour. And now we can change as we need to. Let's go with some blue. Take some white. Take some magenta. And let's just start bringing that colour through. So it becomes more of a bluey kind of a grey. And I'm complementing kind of colours. I'm bringing similar colours throughout the painting, you see what I mean? That's very important. I don't want a very bluey grey footpath in here because it may stand out a little bit too much. I'm going to just cool it slightly. Let's take a bit of phthalo blue, some white, some magenta. I don't want to go too cool. I'm just going to pop that colour in. And I know it's going to mix with the colour already there, so that's going to help. So I know it won't be too dark, too cold, because it's softening into the colours which are already on the footpath, that brown and the bits of pink and stuff like that. Now we can start maybe going a little bit deeper, with a deeper mauvey blue perhaps. Now I am going to take some phthalo blue with black. And again, remember I was saying I don't want it too blue, but I do want it to kind of look like it is a footpath, like a little roadway, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to soften a little bit of that blue shade here and there. And then you can see slowly now it's going into a more bluey, slightly warm blue shade. Let's take some white and some phthalo blue. And I just want to kind of start adding little touches of light here and there. Just little bits. And it could just be simply, you know, the sunlight hitting the roadway or something like that, you know. But you can see how the colours just look right, don't they? They kind of soften in, they kind of, everything comes together as a composition because we have very similar colours throughout. The next thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to take some black, okay? A little bit of black, touch of brown perhaps, and I'm just going to kind of go along the edge of the road over here, put that dark shade in, just to sit that ditch kind of on the road, almost kind of softening one into the other, so to speak. Like this, you see what I mean? I'm just kind of bringing some of that colour out, very gently with my brush. Take another bit of black, let's go over here, and just kind of, let's just dab it down slightly first, like that, and then I'm going to just kind of slowly drag that colour out into the roadway. You see what I mean? So I don't want a kind of a solid line, so to speak. I don't want a solid line between them. I'm using the dark colour just to sort of soften from one to the other. Gently dab. And let's kind of pop a little bit out here and there on the road. So, you know, there's a little bit of dark pieces in the roadway, it could be dips, it could be little bits of rocks, pebbles, all that kind of stuff. Let's just kind of go along and just, you see, just kind of bring little bits of darkness out here and there into the road. Because it's not perfectly smooth, is it? There's going to be little bits of this and little bits of that. Now, I'm going to take a small brush, small pointy brush, and I'm just going to kind of create little ridges in all of this. Just small suggestions that is going up into this mound here. And I come out then as well with some little pebbles, that kind of thing. You know, we are out in the middle of the countryside here, you know, very, very remote. It's not going to be pristine, is it? It's not going to be like one of the roads you see in the city. It's going to have little, there's going to be pebbles and bits of grass and all that kind of stuff thrown around in the road. So let's just give it a little bit of roughness, I'd like to say. Shall we put some white lines in this? I think the white lines, once we get white lines in, the perspective will kick in, so to speak. I'm going to start here with one nice thick white line, like that, okay. Nice thick paint. Let's get some plenty of paint on this now. And I might go over this again in a day or two once this dries. But yeah, let's just get a couple of lines, and as they go off, they just turn into little dots, don't they? Basically little dots as it goes off into the distance. That's nice. That really kind of brings the painting to life, doesn't it? Just thicken them slightly and then they disappear. How's that? For the last piece of this painting, I would like to put someone walking. Now, I don't know, should they be bright coloured or dark coloured? I don't know. It's a tricky one. I maybe try some white with Naples yellow first for the top half of this person. Position is very important. Should we go the right or the left? I think the left. Because if I go the right, it's very central in the painting. I think here might work a little better. So if I put someone just sort of walking along the road, and get some burnt umber, maybe some black for the bottom half, like so. There could be a little stick in the hand as well. And let's just pop a little head on that person. Now I don't know if you can see that or not. Maybe a tiny little suggestion of a cap or something on the head. It's only suggestive. It's only a very, very small suggestive piece, that's all. It's only for a bit of interest in the painting, that's all it is. You don't have to do this. Then I put a little suggestion of a shadow underneath, just to sit the figure down on the road. And that's fine. And you could even go up into the grassy verge area just a little bit. Like that. And I need to put one bird in, because there's always a bird in my pictures, always. Well, most of the time. Just like that. My friends, I am calling this finished. I'm quite happy with this. It turned out nice for just a simple painting, I think. I think it turned out quite nice. I am happy, pleasantly surprised, let's say. That's the word, isn't it? Pleasantly surprised. I am going to just, with the tip of my finger, just dab that into the distance, just to try and soften it back a little bit, okay? You see what I mean? Just slightly. They disappear off into the distance. And there we are, my friends. Now, I might need to make that person slightly bigger. But it's nice. I'm quite happy with all of this. And there we are. Painting finished. And with that, everybody, I will say thank you. Let me fix this camera here. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure painting for you today. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Do subscribe and like the video. Why not? Let's have a bit of fun with this painting stuff, you know. Let's keep it simple. Keep it light-hearted. I'll be back next week with another tutorial. I have a lovely painting coming next week. I think you would like it. It might be a still life. It might not, but I'm kind of going towards a still life at the moment. I have a nice still life that I would love to try. So I will see you next week, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've learned something today. Leave a comment. Leave a comment. I like to engage. God bless and happy painting. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to grab a coffee and I will see you very, very soon. Take care and goodbye.